we call on this university, Cal Poly Humboldt, to use negotiation and dialogue to resolve this issue rather than a second escalated law enforcement response. Hi everyone. Hello, I'm Abdi Soltani. I'm Executive Director of the ACLU of Northern California. Our region covers from Tulare County and Fresno County to the actual northern part of Northern California. So I'm delighted to be here today at Cal State Poly Humboldt. I'm here because for the last week, like so many people, we've been following the news of the student protests and the university's response really closely. On Monday, like the rest of the community who lives here and many people throughout the region and our country, we learned about the students who were staging a sit-in on their university administration building and the speed with which the university called in law enforcement to address the student protest. It really caught our attention when the students began their protest and the sit-in that the university responded so quickly with a major law enforcement response. That caused us concern, and we've been following the events on this campus ever since. One of the things that really has stood out to me is the speed with which this university's administration called law enforcement. As I'm understanding the facts of what has happened here as they are relayed to me, my understanding is that these students began by moving into the building. They appear to be intending to do a sit-in, and very quickly the university responded by calling in multiple law enforcement agencies for a major confrontation. Students have certain rights to freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Those rights are defined in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and also in our state constitution. Those rights come with some limits. It's not all things are okay. But when students may exceed some of those rules or limits that the university places, the university still should use its judgment in deciding how it responds. And choosing to call law enforcement so quickly with so much force is not the best decision in our view. Part of why I wanted to come here today is also to really convey, as these next steps unfold and the days unfold here in Cal Poly Humboldt, that the university should engage with its faculty, with its students in thoughtful dialogue through negotiation to find a peaceful resolution to this issue, and not to once again call in law enforcement and to call in law enforcement for what would be, I would expect, probably a very major and escalated response.
Does this protest environment remind you of a different, any other campuses you've been to, or is this one unique, and in what ways does this stand out to you here at Humboldt?
On Saturday, I visited the University of California at Berkeley campus, which is just half a mile from my home. I was able to walk to that campus actually and see the setting of the students with their tents out in front of Sproul Plaza. Every campus is different. The choices the students make about how they choose to protest is different. Those are the decisions the students make. Here at Cal State, I say Cal State because I'm old school. Here at Cal Poly Humboldt, the students initiated a protest that was inside a building. It appears that they intended to do a sit-in, and the university responded very quickly with a very significant law enforcement response. The law enforcement response in turn affected the subsequent decisions that the students made. So it's not for me to, I don't know all the facts. I don't know all the details of what's transpired on this campus. But what I do know is that there are faculty who have been working with the students, mediating between the students and the administration should really see that process through to find a resolution that does not require them calling once again for law enforcement against their own students. The university, in our view, should use all available tools to work through these issues with their students before calling law enforcement. And in that initial incident, the university went very quickly to calling in law enforcement from multiple agencies, and it was a big escalation. Now, a week having passed by, the students, the university, the faculty should all work together through negotiation and dialogue to find a resolution to this problem that settles the issue, resolves the issue, but without, once again, the university calling in law enforcement. So there's a long history in our country of student movements and student protests, as well as worker movements and all different types of social movements. And all of us rely on a few major protections in both our United States Constitution, as well as our state constitution and our nation and state laws. First and foremost is the First Amendment and its equivalent in our state constitution, which protects the right to freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly without discrimination based on viewpoint or race or color or ethnicity. The response, the type of response, the speed of response should not be colored by the viewpoint that's being expressed in those protests. That's the First Amendment. But protests are not always tidy, and people also engage in civil disobedience. Our country's history has many examples of movements that use civil disobedience. In the instances of civil disobedience, we don't give up all of our rights. We still have a right to personal security, and there are limits to the type of force that the law enforcement or government response can use. And this is anchored in the United States Constitution's Fourth Amendment against unreasonable searches and seizures. These are all stories that unfold in our communities, on our campuses, on our schools, in our country. And there are many examples that come to mind. Almost a decade ago, students at UC Davis during the Occupy movement staged a peaceful sit-in at the center of their campus. They were met by a very rapid and very strong law enforcement response that involved military-grade pepper spray, and that led to an ACLU lawsuit against the University of California. So we all have certain rights related to freedom of expression. We also have rights to not be met with excessive or unreasonable force. But within those parameters of the Constitution and the law is a lot of gray area, and there's also a lot of room for good judgment. That's why, within the parameters that this university has of its choices and options, we call on this university, Cal Poly Humboldt, to use negotiation and dialogue to resolve this issue, rather than a second, escalated law enforcement response.
Thank you. Anything else to add?
I will also say it's a beautiful day today at Cal State Humboldt. And behind me there are people who are providing food and some people doing yoga. And it's just a gorgeous place to be today on a beautiful campus in Northern California. You know, beginning Monday night with the, on the ground reporting and on social media and the videos actually from this very news site that I'm speaking with, we really began to follow this beginning Monday night. And Cal Poly Humboldt's student protest and campus administration's response is part of the national story. You know, in New York City, at Columbia, or at USC, those are obviously in major media markets. And part of why I wanted to come here myself to Humboldt is to be here present myself. This is a vibrant community, Humboldt. This is a vibrant university. ACLU of Northern California has worked in this region on a range of civil liberties issues for years, but it's a really different experience when you're in a community that's rural, when you're in a community that's not in a major metropolitan area with large numbers of nonprofits and civil rights groups, and the legal community is vibrant, but it's small. That's why I wanted to come in person to talk with the students, the faculty, the communities that are here, and it has been an enlightening experience for me to be here. I've learned firsthand the reports from students and faculty about what has unfolded here in this week, and that information is really valuable to us to understand what the facts are and what those experiences have been.